excitement for today's event. Our first commentator is a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Mathematics at Bukidnon State University. He is an award-winning professional teacher, a comedian who has a lot to promise. Also, he was once named as the most influential person. Please help me welcome our first commentator, the handsome and hot Mr. Rogin Okit.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a nice day to be with you guys. But I am sorry for the inconvenience because we're now suffering bad weather. But yet, thank you so much, Mr. Sustento, for the introduction.
Our second commentator is also a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Mathematics at Bukidnon State University. A strong, independent woman who believes that anything happens for a purpose. She is a multi-awarded individual, not just in the Philippines, but also outside the country. Also, she was once hailed as the most appointed woman commentator. Please help me welcome our second commentator, the beautiful and sexy Miss Ruby K. Yagahon.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Sustento. Good afternoon, folks. I hope everyone have a great day today. So please stay tuned because we will having a long discussion.
Now, may I request everyone to settle themselves for our opening prayer to be led by one of the beautiful child of God, Miss Danica Octaviano.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here now. Thank you that you know each of us by name and have caused us to walk with you. We say that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. As we surrender ourselves in adoration, we welcome you among us today and celebrate the gift of life that you have lavished upon each of us. We ask that you would open our ears so that we may hear your voice. Open our minds so that we may receive your eternal wisdom. Open our spirits so that we may know your leading and guidance. And open our hearts so that we may receive your wonderful love. Lord, we thank you for the speakers and facilitators. We pray that you would give them great inspiration as they share with us what you have placed on their hearts. We pray that you would fill them with courage and give them your peace. We ask all this in the glorious name of Jesus. Amen.
According to Albert Einstein, it has been appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our online symposium with the theme Technological Innovation, Enhancement for the Safety Use of ICT, and Internet Policies and Regulations.
To formally open this program, may I call on the multi-talented and handsome person, no other than Mr. Jack Paclehan. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, sir. So, according to your Soros, technology will not play great teachers, but technologically, in the hand of great teachers can be formational. So, if 144 Technology for Teaching and Learning One instructor, Mr. Rondel M. Paraiso, to our speaker for today, which will be introduced later, and all the viewers, good afternoon. I welcome you all to Technology for Teaching and Learning One virtual forum, which discuss about ICT policies and issues, implication, teaching and learning. The topic focuses in the ICT and Internet policy and regulations, which are really important for technology users, especially to students, teachers, and future educators. And now, to start the informative discussion, and entertainment, I formally open this program. I hope everybody will listen, learn, participate, and enjoy some entertaining activity. Thank you, and once again, good afternoon.
Thank you for that message.
For the information of everyone, we are going to have our raffle draw. So please comment your full name to the comment box for the attendance. Thus, Miss Danica Octaviano will going to check it.
We would like to acknowledge the presence of our instructor, Mr. Rondal Paraiso. A round of applause, please.
Do you know what, partner? I am so excited for this event.
Me as well, partner. I am glad to know more about ICT. So with no further ado, please help me welcome Ms. Cristel Bacahito to introduce the first speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce to you our speaker today. Our first speaker is an IT graduate from George University and had a lot of experience in managing concern about data policies. She also a member of Philippine Computer Society, and during her college years, she won as a champion in the yearly Information Technology Quiz Bee. She is here with us today to share her insightful knowledge in the topic freedom of expression and censorship. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Joanna Stephanie B. Ravidas. A virtual applause, please.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Makahito, for your encouraging introduction. So before I start my presentation today, I would like to encourage everybody to participate for this activity called 4 Picks 1 Word. The mechanics of this activity is that you have to guess the word that the 4 given pictures portray. Anyone who would like to share their answers can kindly raise your hand and deliver your answer. Okay. Anyone would like to try and answer this activity? Okay, Mr. Christian, are you raising your hand?
Yes, ma'am. Freedom
Okay.
of expression, ma'am.
Freedom of expression. Pardon, Mr. Christian. Okay, it's correct. Thank you very much. Next. Okay, anyone who would like to share their answer, kindly raise your hand. Okay, anyone? Okay, we have Miss Danica and Mr. James Carl Sustento. So, Miss Danica, would you like to share your answer?
Censorship, ma'am.
Pardon? Okay,
Censorship.
okay, correct. Hello, everyone. Anyone can hear me? Could you respond, please?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
I would like to begin my talk with a saying that goes like this. Censorship is to art and freedom of speech is to justice. So good afternoon once again. This is Joanna Stephanie Ravidas. So our topic for today is freedom of expression and censorship. So freedom and expression refers to a person's or group's ability to freely express their views, ideas, and feelings on a range of issues without fear of government repression. Censorship, on the other hand, is the art of altering, suppressing, or forbidding speech or writing that is deemed harmful to the public good. Thus, we can say that it can be found in all kinds of authority to some level, but when it comes to governance and the rule of law, it has taken on a new relevance, especially in today's modern times. Article 10 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, entitled Freedom of Expression, provides the foundation for freedom of expression. This article protects our right to have and express our own opinions without government interference. It was also supported and anchored by Article 3, Section 4 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which states that no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, expression, or the right of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition the government for redress of grievance. Through this article, our rights, including the rights of freedom of speech, right to a free press, freedom of assembly, and right of petition were all guaranteed. Censorship, on the other hand, is codified in some laws such as Presidential Decree number 1986, entitled Establishing the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, which states there is an urgent need to rationalize the movie and television industry in relation to the body regulating and supervising its operations. A regulatory authority must not only examine and regulate films and television shows that come before it, but also devise strategies and collaborate with the sector to enhance viable as the source of national economic fuel. So the law that you are now seeing in the screen are the two laws that codified and anchor censorship and freedom of expression. Next. Thus, the right to freely express oneself includes the ability to do so in public, such as through public protest, and rallies, or through written articles, books or leaflets, television or radio broadcast, works of art, the internet, and social media. In fact, this right is especially crucial for journalists and other media professionals because they must have the freedom to criticize the government and public institutions without fear of being prosecuted, for this is an essential component of a democratic society. And as we all know, we are part of a democratic society. Censorship, on the other hand, occurs in a variety of media, including speech, books, music, films, and other arts, the press, radio, television, and the internet for a variety of claimed reasons, including our national security, control of obscenity, child pornography, and hate speech, protection of children or other vulnerable groups, promotion or restriction of political or religious views, and telecommunications. So there are found cases that neglects the rights of and regulations of censorship and freedom of expression. Some cases were found neglecting both freedom of expression and censorship. The first case would be the fraud for press freedom in the Philippines. Thus, it was an issue of press freedom. The Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission canceled Rappler's company registration according to the article. an online media company that has aggressively reported on Duterte's troll and army and police abuses in the government's fight on drugs. The company may be forced to close if the order is upheld by an appeal court. On the other hand, censorship issues were mostly found on the internet, and five current issues, according to Australian Human Rights Commission, were cyberbullying, cyber racism, cyber sexism or sexual harassment, and cyber homophobia, which is very relevant and very visible in today's generation. One of the best examples for the case of censorship is the case of a 12-year-old Filipino American from Queens Village who committed suicide in her room after being reportedly cyberbullied by her peers. It was said that she killed herself after writing a letter about the mistreatment she had endured for the video that went viral on social media. Therefore, the freedom of expression and the right to have unconstrained opinions, bullying can limit a person's ability to express sentiments or hold uninhibited thoughts because they no longer feel safe doing so. So there are violations and violators of this right. Although you have the right to free speech and censorship, one also have a responsibility to act responsibly and respect the rights of others. Therefore, the government authorities may limit this right if they can demonstrate that their action is lawful, necessary, and proportionate to protect national security, territorial integrity, or the state's border, or public safety, to prevent disorder or crime, to protect health or morals, to protect the rights and reputations of others, or to prevent the disclosure of confidential information. Thus, the main violators were mostly media, the people, and most especially the youth. So in conclusion, freedom of expression refers to a person's or group's ability to openly express their thoughts, opinions, and feelings on a variety of problems without fear of repression by the government, while censorship is the suppression of free speech, usually on the grounds that it is harmful or offensive to the general public. Thus, expressions that are deemed indecent, blasphemous, disloyal, seditious, or immoral are occasionally prohibited. With this, I'll conclude my presentation by reminding everyone that it's fine to openly express one's own thoughts and ideas, but only in moderation and in accordance with the rules and regulations in a place to ensure one's safety and protection. With that, may God be praised and thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that informative talk. So, yes, we have the right to express our feelings and our thoughts, but we still need to put in our mind that we have limitation. If you have any questions, please send it to Mr. Casanova because he is the in charge for the accumulation of the questions. So to introduce our second speaker, again, may I call Miss Makahito. A round of applause, please.
Then again, our next speaker is an IT graduate from Cebu University. He is currently working in the data center in their school and at the same time, a university professor who is teaching IT students. He also recognized as a top 1 outstanding student leader during the surge of student leadership in their school. And we are lucky today that he is with us despite of her busy schedule to share his thoughtful knowledge about privacy security. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Christian Dave Dorado. A virtual applause, please.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, our introductor. Good day, everyone, especially to our instructor. I hope that everybody is in good condition today so that everyone will be all ear to the topic which I am interested by the class. I sense some silence in this class, so before I start, let's have a nice briefing short activity first. So this is an activity called Guess the Word. So you may raise your hand. I'll present three words with missing letters. All you have to do is guess the word being presented. A few hints will be given with the word. If you want to answer, please state your name or just raise your hand and wait for the presenter to call your name. So without further ado, let's start. This is the first word. It is the state of being protected or safe from harm, fear, and anxiety. You may raise your hand if you want to answer. Yes, I see Ralph raising his hand.
I think, sir, it is security.
Security. You're correct. Security is the state of being protected or safe from harm, fear, and anxiety. Thank you for that. The second word is the state of being alone and not watched or disturbed by the other people or being free from the attention of the public. Anyone who can answer the question? You may raise your hand. Again, it is the state of being alone and not watched or disturbed by other person. Yes, I see Mr. Darrell Cabrera raising his hand.
Yes, good afternoon. I guess it's private.
Private. Uh, a little bit, it is a little correct, but it is not the word that we are getting here. So any other answer? You may raise your hand. Okay, Mr. Arkaya, you're raising your hand. You may speak, Mr. Arkaya.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Um, is the word sir privacy?
Yes, that is the correct answer. It's privacy. It's the state of being alone and not watched or disturbed by other people. It's privacy. Thank you for that. And the last word is this. It is the fact of private information being kept secret. It is the fact or of private information being kept in secret. That is a typology in our presentation. Sorry for that. It is the fact of private information being kept secret. So you will raise your hand if you want to answer. Yes, Miss Rabi Aranzo, you're raising your hand.
Good afternoon, sir. I think the answer is confidentiality.
All right, awesome. That's correct. It is confidentiality. So I guess we are all warmed up for my presentation. Thank you for participating. And gladly you've answered it right, all of you. Thank you. Now back to the main topic. Okay, thank you. I would like to start my talk with a story of my friend after a birthday party last May 5, 2020. He was on the room with his girlfriend that day and doing extraordinary things like singing, dancing, and mild sexual activities. They lately recognized that they are being watched by kids in the hole next to that room. The feeling of shame and humiliation was obvious in their faces. The horror of being seen in an activity that you are willing to do if and only if you are alone. This introduces my talk about privacy and security. The mindset of people who always say that privacy and security doesn't matter because they don't have things to hide is really absurd, because in the first place, those who says that it doesn't matter and in fact the people who actually cares and make all necessary means to make their life secured, like putting a strong password to their Facebook accounts, making sure that the door was locked when they were at work, or even giving people limited information about themselves. These mindset categorize persons as good and bad people. Those who committed crimes has always been hiding from shame, and good people are those who just wake up, go to work, live a normal life, and go to sleep. It is quite unjust to say that only bad people has something to hide, or in fact, all of us has something to hide. Privacy, in simple terms, is the safeguarding of your personal information, controlling your data activity, and having the right to choose whether or not you give information to a certain website. Security, on the other hand, is the safeguarding of your data against unauthorized access that might lead to identity theft or such related cybercrimes. I know it is quite simple to say but very hard to understood. So to further elaborate my point, I would like to use a representation of a common food called donut. My presentation is not a donut, but because I feel hungry, I would like to represent it as a donut. So we see a donut has two circles, one in the inside and the other in the outside. So let's label the inside as a privacy and the outside as security. Okay, you can see it, but just just imagine that it is a donut. So in this representation, privacy is a personal information of a person or a donut. It is a personal information that which circulates in its own, while the security is what makes it free from danger. Privacy is just like a room in your house. We all do have a room in our house. It stores uh, it stores personal information or personal things that only you could see. With security, yet every room has a window, and that window makes your personal belongings visible to people outside your house. That's where security is needed. Like you have a curtain to which it can block the sight from the outside, and just because you want other people not to see what's inside, you have to close the window or put curtains on it so that it is not visible outside. And why it matters? Because it is just like putting money in your wallet and placing it inside your bag or a vault. It does matter always because having something in private is not really something that you want others to know about or you don't want to share about them. That is the principle of secrecy. Everyone has something to hide and therefore they need security. It is just a fact that everyone has something personal that they don't want other people to know about. So that concludes my statement and that concludes mm, my report. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for that enlightening message, Mr. Christian Dorado. You can send your question to Mr. Alton Casanova because it will be entertained later.
But before we proceed to our next speaker, let us be entertained by an intermission number from the grand champion of the Voice Teens Season 2, no other than Miss Farah Gretchnov. A round of applause, please.
Baby, won't you tell me why? There is sadness in your eyes. I don't wanna say goodbye to you. Love is one big illusion. I should try to forget, but there is something lost in my head. You're the one who set it up. You're the one to make it up. I'm the one who's feeling lost right now. Now you want to forget every little thing you said. There's something left in my head. I won't forget the way were never satisfied. No matter how I try, now you wanna say goodbye to me. Love is one big illusion. I should try to forget. There is something in my head. I won't forget now where you're feeling so strong, we're lasting for so long. But I'm not the girl your heart is missing. That's why you go. I sitting here alone in the middle of nowhere. Don't know which way to go. There ain't so much to say, no freedom. There ain't so much to do. There ain't so much to me I won't forget the way you're feeling so strong. We're lasting for so long. But I'm not the girl no heart is missing. That's why you go. I know. Why you go. I know.
What a spectacular performance from you, ma'am. Thank you so much for entertaining our audience.
Yeah, we were very entertained pero na-stipnik pud mi kajot. So with no further ado,
To introduce our speaker, please help me welcome Miss Makahito. A round of applause, please.
Our third speaker for today's forum, she is an environmental science degree holder and at the same time a computer literate. And she is currently working in the big computer company in California. She also became a vice president in the Youth Environmentalist Society organization. She is here with us today to share her knowledge about the topic A pollutants from A waste. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Maricar Damicog. A round of applause, please.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. But before I start my talk, I have a short, simple icebreaker and entitled Formula, and anyone from the audience can answer. So, using the letters that you can find on picture, formulate a word that relates to the topic that I am discussing for today. So, anyone? Anyone?
E-waste, ma'am.
Yes, that's correct. So, another.
Ma'am,
Yes, Blendil.
pollution.
Yes, that's correct. So, thank you for participating. So, to start, I would like to thank you for the speakers for sharing us those helpful information. But though I would like to add and tell everyone that our awareness should never stop on those topics. As a technology users, we as a technology users, we should also be aware of the threats and effects that e-waste may bring to us. To start with this topic, let us know first what is e-waste. So, e-waste is a short term for electronic waste. It is anything that runs on electricity, and electronic or electrical devices which are no more used, unwanted, outdated, or those that have broken and stopped serving its purpose. It includes TV, cell phones, printers, tablets, consoles, computer, refrigerators, home and office appliances. So, as of 2019, we produces more than 50 million tons of e-waste globally. Classes and meetings and social connections were moved online, which makes electronic devices more essential. Now, why do we have to be mindful of e-waste? Sorry for that. Now, why do we have to be mindful of e-waste? With this modern technological era, where there is a constant upgrades of technologies, e-waste has become our global problem. The e-waste that we burn or dump on landfills contains substances such as arsenic, cadmium, chromium, beryllium, brominated flame retardants, mercury, lead, and more. Aside from the harmful impacts that it causes to our environment, it also poses risk to humans and wildlife when released to air, water, and soil. When we throw away electronics to junkyard and or landfills, as it decomposes, hazardous compounds such as lead and mercury, it leach into groundwater, where we get drinking water, which means that it causes risks to our health, aside from the fact that disposing e-waste in landfills will only waste and the opportunity to recycle valuable materials inside them. Also, when we burn it, those toxic compounds will mix into the air that we breathe. Still, it causes health problems. This only implies that we mustn't responsibly dispose or burn our unused electronics. So, in the Philippines, according to the Environmental Management or EMB of Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the national policy and regulatory framework for the management of e-waste have long been in place. This is the Republic Act RA 6969, also known as Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Control Act, in which this law seeks to regulate the importation, manufacture, processing, handling, storage, transportation, sale, distribution, use, treatment, and disposal of toxic chemicals and hazardous waste that pose risk to human health and the environment. The global environment report shows that our country generated 3.9 kilograms of e-waste last year, that is per capita. And last 2019, EMB, Environmental Management Bureau, reported that Philippines generated a total of 32,664.41 metric tons of waste electrical and electronic equipment, or WEEE. Under the Administrative Order 2013 to 22 of DENR, generators, transporters, and treatment, storage, and disposal or TSD facilities of hazardous materials, including WEEE, are now required to register with EMB to document and provide details of each movement of the waste, with a corresponding permit to transport or the chain of custody document. So in connection with these, importers and exporters are required to secure permits and clearance from EMB to monitor importation and exportation of hazardous waste. As a reminder, e-waste comes from us, hence we must take responsible for it. That's all. Thank you.
What an illuminating message from you, ma'am. We really learned a lot of things from that message. So I know you are all excited to learn more about ICT. Down to the last speaker, may I call again Miss Makahito to introduce our last speaker.
Sorry. And now we are down to our last speaker for this afternoon. She grew up in California and graduate her mechanical engineering course at Oxford University. She went to earn her master's degree at Harvard University and a member of Computer Engineers Association. Her talk today is entitled Surveillance and Data Retention. Without further ado, please help me welcome Engineer Christine E. Malto. A virtual applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my topic for today is all about the surveillance and data retention. So, before going to the discussion, let's have first a interactive game for an icebreaker. So, let's go. Okay, wait lang. Wait. Okay, I will start sharing na. Okay, can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes,
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 ma'am.
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 Okay,
Yes,
very good.
ma'am.
That's very, very good. Okay. Okay. So our game for this afternoon is all about the find the object. So we have here a picture. Okay. So in this picture, you are going to choose. So one of you will choose three objects coming from this picture that represents storing and monitoring. So we have here 12 number of objects. So let me have volunteers, please. Oh, volunteers? Please speak na lang. Please speak because ano.
Me. Ah,
Okay. So, what's your
Hindi mo
please
natuloy lang yung
choose
bilis.
three objects coming from this picture.
Oo.
Animal.
Five, ma'am.
magpili
Five.
og tulo.
Okay, five. Sorry, incorrect. It does not represent storing or monitoring. Another one, please.
Number 9.
Number nine. Okay, number nine is correct. Okay, the cell phone. So it can be used for storing and monitoring data. So let's go back. Another one.
Number 12.
Number 10.
Number 10.
Oh, 12. Okay, 12, 10. So, okay. Chill, chill. Okay, let's chill. Okay, correct. So, number 12 is, this is an SD card. So, SD card can also be used for storing material, storing information, and whatsoever. So, number 10. Okay, number 10 is the laptop, and it's correct. So, Laptop can be also used for storing and also for monitoring data or digital footprints or digital activities. So, okay, let's end that one. We also have a lot of objects here, but let's end that one, that game there. Okay, so let's go. So now let's have the actual topic. So again, okay, can you still see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Very good, children of the people. Okay, so now let's start our topic about surveillance and data retention. So this surveillance and data retention is actually for me a very interesting issue because um only only we only have less knowledge about surveillance and data retention, and we didn't think about it much because we thought that this didn't exist in ICT world, but it actually exists. So when we surf the web or use electronic communication, all our actions and data leave trace and do not disappear anywhere. So every time you go visit a website, you go use an app, there is always a digital footprint for that. So you have to take note with that. Even if you go exit the Google history, you clear your Google history, your internet service provider will always store your digital history or your digital footprints that you leave in every website that you visit. So before going through with other discussion, let us first define what is surveillance and data retention. So let's have first the surveillance. So surveillance in ICT, it is a system that enables the monitoring and exploitation of data or content that is stored, processed, or transferred via ICTs, including computers, mobile phone, and telecommunication networks. So this content that is stored is actually what we call the data retention. Okay. So data retention is actually simply as storing. It is the storage and the use of information from communication system. And data retention is the process through which governments and business, especially telecommunication services like PLDT and internet service provider, that which records and store various data usually related to individuals or what we call as users of the internet. Now, to deepen our knowledge about surveillance and data retention, now let's have the actual discussion about it. So the use of electronic communication and any digital platform has enhanced the development of indirect surveillance. So what is this indirect surveillance? In the indirect surveillance, there is no direct contact between the agent and the subject of surveillance, but the evidence of activities can be traced. So there is new up and powerful term of indirect surveillance, and this is the data vigilance. It is the use of personal information to monitor a person's activities. It is the practice of monitoring and collecting online data as well as metadata. It's concerned with the continuous monitoring of users' communication and actions across the various platforms. So, for instance, data vigilance refers to the monitoring of data resulting from credit card transaction. You can see there at the screen, GPS coordinates, emails, social networks, social media, Facebook, Twitter, or any social networking sites. Using digital media often leaves traces of data and creates digital footprints of our activities. So every time you visit into a website, there would always be a digital traces and a digital footprints that you will leave after you exit some apps, which is it can be stored through your internet service providers and your telecommunication services because they are the one who is obliged to store that kind of data. So now, so this, so the data that is being stored is again what is called as data retention. So this data retention again is the storage and use of information from communication system. So this data is actually the one storing our digital traces, footprints for later uses or specifically for surveillance. More or less, this data retention refers to way internet user data is handled and stored. Most businesses and government institutions have data retention policy or mandatory data retention in place that outlines how they're gonna approach this one. So let's talk now the downsides or why this surveillance and data retention considered as issue. So surveillance and data retention is justified when it comes to fight terrorism and prevent combat serious crime. So for example, we have the terrorism, kidnap issues like that. So this surveillance and data retention is a very helpful one because this can trace the information of the kidnappers, of the criminals. This can trace or track the kidnappers of where they are. They can to reveal the location of the kidnappers and whatsoever. But however, in most cases, surveillance and data retention is unjustified as data retention violates our privacy and can be used for surveillance. So it really violates our privacy. Imagine somebody is watching every time you connect yourself in digital world. There will always be somebody behind in every data servers who is actually watching and monitoring your digital activity. And aside from that, they're also storing your digital footprints and your digital activity through any data servers, internet service provider, or any telecommunication services. So, anyways, even if that happens, so there is a very little that can be done to prevent surveillance. What can be done is to make surveillance difficult. This is called counter surveillance or information security if it refers to computers and electronic communication. And counter surveillance or information security is change the methods of working to make surveillance difficult to enter. And another tip that I can give to you is that you if you wanted to make yourself anonymous or to prevent surveillance, then you have to play like a hacker who is not easy to get caught by the government. So you have to play like a hacker, like you do things that would help you to prevent surveillance or to help you become anonymous in the digital world. Okay? So let me end this presentation or speech through reminding to maintain your anonymity store only the useful one, eradicate those useless so that nobody will use that against you, and be vigilant and attentive about your digital surroundings and protect your personal data at all costs. So I think that would be all, and thank you. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much for that informative message, ma'am. I hope you learned something from that. So at this moment, all of the questions that you have raised will be answered by any of the speaker. So please, Mr. Casanova.
For our first question came from Diane Cabrera. Where can we dispose e-waste? Any one of the speakers can answer this question.
Me. So, where can we dispose e-waste? So, to answer that question, we can dispose e-waste to TSD facilities. It is the treatment, storage, disposal facilities, and some telecoms, just like Globe, already supported proper e-waste disposal through their e-waste zero bin, where you can drop off your unused gadgets or tablets in their Globe Telecom major cities, stores in their major cities, such as in Cagayan de Oro, in Limpit Kai Center. So, yes.
For the next question, it was came from Miss Eliza Denise Constantella Reyes. The question is, you have mentioned a while ago about data retention policy. Can you please elaborate to us of how this policy works and how is it beneficial for the business entitles or global organization?
Okay, so thank you for that wonderful question. So that is a very good question. So data retention varies in different organization or different business entities. So but most often it is the created documentation of every organization to stipulate when data is already useless and should be deleted or if the retention period has been met. So data retention policies are important and beneficial into every business entities, enable for them to ensure all local and federal regulation and retention schedules are being met. This includes retaining data records for the specified period time and also prompt deleting or destroying records once the retention policy is up. So in short, this data retention policy will keep important information for future use or reference, organize information so it can be searched and accessed at a later date, and dispose of information that is no longer needed to minimize the expense in every retention infrastructure, because once there will be a massive amount of personal information the about such organization, then there would be an expensive amount that they should need enable for them to make an infrastructure for third party for storing the information of their customers or about their business. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. The what is or are the good effects of recycling e-waste to our environment? Coming from Christian Simbahon.
Ah, to to answer that, ah, what is or are the good effects of recycling e-waste to our environment? So, one of the biggest good effect of recycling e-waste is that it can lessen our mining activity. Why? So according to Environmental Protection Agency or blog on 2013, recycling a million of cell phones means recovering 35,000 pounds of copper, 772 pounds of silver, 75 pounds of gold, and 33 pounds of palladium. So imagine recovering this amount of valuable materials instead of mining and stripping it off from our environment, knowing that it is only for cell phones. So it will lessen mining activity and can help to preserve Earth. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Another question coming from Red Sally J. Suyo. Why do people have the right to free speech?
Hello. Hello there, Miss Red Sally J. Suyo. Thank you for your question. So, people was given the right to free speech because for them to allow them to freely share their ideas, views, beliefs, and ideals with others without the fear of being penalized. And that would be all. Thank you for your question again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering the question. So another question is came from James Carl Sustento, and it was the question is it true that censorship deprive us the ability to openly express our views and ideas? Again, let me read again the question. Is it true that the censorship deprive us the ability to openly express our views and ideas?
Any of the speakers can answer the question.
So, hello there, Mr. James Carl Sostento. So, for your question, my answer would be no, because restriction of information in the interest of national security is permissible, but when only absolute essential and when safeguards are in place to ensure open justice and freedom of speech. And that would be all.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question coming from Rabbi Aranzo. How does data retention and surveillance affect our online privacy?
Hello? Hello. Okay, so good afternoon. So this is about how does data retention and surveillance affect our online privacy. So well, so let's just think of it this way, okay? Every time you go online, search in web and use any digital platform like Google or Facebook or Twitter or anything, there's always somebody who is watching you every online move, because that data servers that we have, that internet service provider, that telecommunication is impossible without the human actions. So there would always be somebody who is watching you and can access a log of all your online interactions and downloads especially the government. So that is why this data retention and surveillance really affects our online privacy because we didn't know every time that we have example we visit a website, so there would always be somebody who is monitoring our digital activity. It also makes and it is that is one of the downside of the data retention and surveillance because it also makes the corporation or the government to collect data more powerful. They can collect data very powerful or they can abuse our the data retention for their own interest. And what's worse, there are some non-democratic state or authoritarian regimes like Myanmar can use data retention for surveillance to help them persecute and punish their citizens. And in most cases, and most time because of this different surveillance method and data retention and because of the advancement of technology because people are getting more intelligent, our personal information might be leaked because even if the internet service provider is a huge platform for storing our personal data, they cannot give us the assurance that our personal data is being stored safely into their own data server. So there would always be something that might happen that would end up leaking our personal data and breaching our personal data. So that is why this data retention is really affecting our online privacy.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question coming from Ralph Golosino. Aside from burning e-waste, which is harmful, what is the process of recycling of this e-waste?
Okay, so as I was talking earlier, TSD or treatment storage and disposal facility are the one who are in charge of that matter. As a process or with a permit, they shred this e-waste and by the help of the magnet, they segregate metals from non-metals. Then afterwards, those metals such as copper, silver, etc. that they can recover, they will reprocess it for another product or parts of the new electronics. That's all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that for answering that question. So another question is came from Aldrin Bagul. The question is, do we have e-waste management here in the Bukidnon? If there is, where is it located?
Yes, there is. Actually, we have 5 registered TSD facilities in Region 10, and 2 of it are located here in Bukidnon. The first one is in Barangay Gabok in Manolo Fortich, while the other one is in South Poblacion in Maramag. Though if I may add, it is not necessarily needed that you have to immediately drop it off your unused gadgets or electronics. Maybe if you have business or errands nearby to any facilities, then you can drop by. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question coming from Keno Martin Adviento. Why do you think security can exist without privacy but not privacy without security?
I was very glad at first that my name is not called or my topic is not being asked, but yeah, it is. So why do you think security can exist without privacy, but not privacy without security? Mr. Cano, to answer your question, suppose we have a vault or a wallet. I have here, wait, I have here a wallet. Let's see. What do you think? Why do you think security can exist without privacy? I have a wallet. I don't have any money, but I have documents here. So if this is an empty wallet, then I close it. It can be secured, but there's nothing inside. But privacy or private information such as documents, money, or even what do you think might be important to you doesn't have to be open every time because someone outside will be sneak in and say, "Oh, you have a 20 pesos money in your wallet," and that's very embarrassing if you know what I'm saying. But that just because you have security doesn't mean you need privacy. But if you have private information inside a wallet or inside a vault or anything, you have to secure it for that, so that not anyone outside it can see it. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for answering that question. So the next question is from Nestor Andrian Marsamolo. What are these toxic substances may cause to our health?
So, what are these toxic substances because to our health? So, these toxic substances, particularly cadmium, brominated flame retardants, mercury, and lead, they can cause kidney disease, weaken our bones, neurobehavioral effects, and endocrine disruption. So, mercury exposure can cause harmful effects on our nervous, digestive, and immune system, and it may be fatal, especially for our lungs and kidneys. So, with high lead levels, can cause brain and kidney damage. That's all.
Okay, everyone, we only going to ask three questions. Our last question is, if we have freedom of expression, why do the government censor some information to be viewed in the public? By Danica Octaviano.
So, hello, Miss Danica. Thank you for your question. So, my answer would be um, for the reasons of safeguarding our national security as well as our national territory, and also the people viewing, as well as to avoid malicious and harmful content. The government censored and even prohibited some informations from being viewed in the public. And that would be all. Thank you.
The second and last question will be came from Blendel Shane T. Donsig. How surveillance and data retention related to each other?
Okay, so thank you for that question. So, how surveillance and data retention related to each other? So, data retention is again the process of storing our information. Whenever we visit online website, we make calls to our friend or we make calls to our friends through telecommunication services, visit some online websites through internet service providers. So, this information that is being stored were used to monitor and trace our daily activities once it is being stored. The reason for storing it is for retrieving, for marketing purposes, and or for surveillance really. So an internet service for example, an internet service provider is and telecommunication services is actually the one who monitors our online traffic and track the website we visit. So in latter case, our internet service providers pass our data to a third party if required by law. So that is the reason why we have this data retention and mandatory data retention, especially in that varies in different countries. It is because if if there would be a serious crime happening, so there will be an investigation will that will that will exist in through investigating in the digital world. So that is why we have this data retention and this surveillance, and that is their relation to each other. There is a data retention for surveillance, and there is a surveillance because of data retention in the digital world. And that would be all.
Ma'am. So last question will be Roby Kayagahon. What is the relationship between freedom of speech and censorship? Again, what is the relationship between freedom of speech and censorship?
So, hello there. Thank you for your question. So, my answer would be the relationship between the censorship and freedom of expression is that censorship limits our ability to freely express our views and opinions in order to protect the people's right and to prevent malevolent or malicious and violent or harmful information that may hurt other people's feelings and for the greater good and welfare of our country as well as for the people. And that would be all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you for all the speakers who answered the questions. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time, sir, and ma'am for the time.
So at this moment, may I request the speaker to give their concluding statement, starting from Miss Joanna Revidas, followed by Christian Dorado, Maricar Damicog, and lastly, Christine Malto.
Hello there again. So, I conclude that censorship limits our freedom of expression prior to the welfare and common good of everyone. Thus, it's good to openly and freely express our own views and ideals, but only in moderation and in accordance to the rule of law. That would be all.
Thank you. And I can summarize my point by saying one can have security without privacy, but never privacy without security. Thank you.
So, the pollutants from e-waste brings risk to our health and environment. And as a reminder, e-waste come from us, hence we must take responsibility for it. It is a global problem, so it needs also a global action. Let us save one another.
Miss Christine Malto.
So sorry. Okay, okay, for the surveillance and data retention. So once we enter in a digital world, we always thought that we are anonymous and does not leave any traces behind that can be used against us in the future, in future. But the reality is surveillance and data retention are always present. We are always being monitored by humans behind data servers, telecommunication services, and internet providers. But we can prevent this by making ourselves knowledgeable and awareing ourselves about these certain issues. Take an action through maintaining our anonymity, privacy, and protection of our personal data at all costs. So the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Don't store unnecessary data. Keep an eye on what's happening and don't take unnecessary risk. And that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, sir, for your concluding statement. We learned a lot of things from you today. How to, what are our rights and what are our responsibilities in ICT. At this moment, please bear with me as I give the certificates to our speakers. But before that, let me read the citation. For our first speaker, certificate of appreciation is given to Mr. Christian Dave Dorado for his phenomenal and worthy presentation on the topic privacy security during the online symposium on technological innovation, enhancement for the safety and use of ICT and internet policy and regulations. Given this in 9th day of June 2021, signed by our beautiful BSE Math President, Redsally J. Suyu. A round of applause, please.
Certificate of Appreciation is given to Christine Malto for her phenomenal and worthy presentation on the topic Surveillance and Data Retention during the online symposium on technological innovation, enhancement for the safety use of ICT and internet policy and regulations, given this 9th day of June 2021, signed by Redsally J. Suyo. A round of
Thank
applause,
you,
please.
everyone. Thank you.
Another certificate is given to Miss Joanna Stephanie Ravidas for the phenomenal and worthy presentation on the topic freedom of expression and censorship during the online symposium on technological innovation, enhancement for the safety use of ICT and internet policy and regulation. given this 9th day of June 2021 and signed by Miss Redsally J. Su, our BSE President.
Thank you so much.
A round of applause, please.
Certificate of Appreciation is given to Maricar Damicog for phenomenal and worthy presentation on the topic e-pollutants from e-waste during the online symposium on technological innovation enhancement for the safety use of ICT and internet policies and regulations. Given this 9th day of June 2021, signed by Redsally J. Suyu, our BSE Math President. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chicken.
So this time that you have been waiting for, we will going to have our raffle draw. For the first prize, 50 pesos load from our sponsor, Crystal Makahito, the TNT manager. For the second prize, 30 pesos load from Juana Ravidas, the Globe manager. For the third prize, 20 pesos load from Ridsali Suyo, our CEO sa Choksugo. And Mr. Elton Casanova, please roll the lucky wheel. For the third prize, we have Miss Mayel Esconder. For the second prize, we have Miss Rabi Aranzo. A round of applause, please. For the first prize, we have... You're lucky today, Miss Danica Octaviano.
If you are going to claim your prize, please send us your full name
and your phone number. For our client. Nowadays, everyone are using ICT, and it is essential to each one of us to know and to be aware of our rights and our responsibility in using ICT in a good way that we cannot harm anything in this earth and anyone's privacy. Therefore, we must be aware of regulations and policies regarding ICT for us to be guided in using virtual platforms. Thus, I hope our learning from this online symposium and from the different speakers will remain in our minds. Also, I hope that we can share our learnings in ICT to others, in able to awaken and raise their awareness and consciousness towards ICT. And before we are going to end this program, we would like to extend our gratitude to our very dynamic instructor, Mr. Rondal Paraiso, sir, to the speakers for sharing your knowledge, committee heads, as well as the participants. Thank you so much for having with us today. This is Mr. Regenterion Oket,
Miss Roby Kayagahon,
your masters of ceremony. To God be all the glory.
Okay, congratulations. Please turn off the record button. Turn off sa tong record. Stop recording.